Strength and conditioning coach education. Hi guys, hope you're doing well. Look, one of the main movements that everyone does in their exercise program at some point is a squat, and there's various versions of a squat, from very easy and assisted through to very difficult, very heavy, and obviously advanced. I love the movement. It's always been a staple in my training and my clients' training. But today what I want to go through is just a couple of versions of squatting to work people through a range of abilities, from perhaps the very elderly and the very immobile through to the younger and the more mobile and stronger clients that you may deal with. So it's just a cross-section of squat exercises that I tend to use to be able to pretty much cater for everyone that needs to do this really important exercise. So let's check them out. Right, so option one is an assisted squat. Now let's pretend that we've got a client who is elderly or very immobile or very weak, or perhaps coming off an injury of some description through the lower body, and you want to give them the ability to go through a range of motion or a squat movement pattern, but they need to be assisted. They need to be helped in order to get through that. So here's a Smith machine, which can be a very versatile piece of equipment. All I would do is bring the bar down to a similar position like that, perhaps around about midsection region. The client can then place their hands on the bar for support, for stability, for safety, and just confidence. So pretend the lower body is quite weak, and all I'll get them to do is basically sit down in that squat position and then stand themselves up. Sit down again and stand themselves up. So nothing tricky about that, but what I'm saying is anyone can pretty much squat. So even if they're not very strong, or if they've never done the movement, or as I say, if they've got some form of injury, just start with a basic assisted squat and get them to move into that pattern. Get them to move through that range of motion. You know, coming off a knee injury of some description, maybe it's that kind of action, and eventually we get down and down and down into a deeper position. But that's a like level one, super easy beginner way to start with a squat. So as they start to get a little bit more comfortable coming out of level one, and they can control their body weight and they can move through a basic range of motion without having to hold on to something, we can go to level two, which is just a body weight squat, but allowing the person to sit down. A lot of people, if they're very weak or if they're elderly, will struggle to hold the bottom position of a squat. So let them sit. It's also something that they should be capable of doing in their life, just around the home, is the ability to sit and stand out of a chair. So all I do is I get a bench, make sure they're quite close to the bench so they know with confidence they're actually going to sit down and they're in the right position. And all I get them to do is hold their arms out, stay nice and tall, slowly sit down with control, and there it is, okay? Again, I know it looks ridiculously easy, but you would be surprised how many people coming off injuries or coming off some kind of lower limb issue find it difficult to do this. So just stand up, slowly control down and pause, and then press up. Really important when you're teaching people how to squat properly that you take your time and slow that eccentric, that lowering phase, slow it down. Don't let people plonk down without control. That's not going to do them any favors. Make them control the down phase. So that's just a sitting or a body weight squat into a sit position. Let's progress it. Now guys, the next step would be a body weight squat. So we don't need the bench there to sit down on. We have determined that the person has the adequate strength and control to be able to do a normal body weight squat. So maybe just next to the bench, we get them in the same position. They don't have the bench there to sit on, but what they need to do is lower their body down into that nice, healthy squat position and then stand back up. Don't be in a hurry to go down into deep ranges of motion. If you need to, let them get into a quarter squat, all right? So that's that kind of position, and then press up. If they start looking pretty strong and smooth in there, then we push them down into a half squat. Look, if you can get someone's squat depth to the position where their thighs are parallel with the floor, that's pretty adequate for most people. You don't really need to go much deeper than that for, general population. Athletic populations or in specific ranges of motion, different story. Maybe we do need to get people down into that deep squat position, but for general population, I would be happy if I could just get every person into that position with stability, with control, with good range, with no pain. And then we'll progress it from there. Right, so if a person can do a really good body weight squat and you're happy with all of that, we can then progress to put some load onto that person. Now, the next step for me, I like to go into a goblet squat for a couple of reasons. You can use a kettlebell, you can use a dumbbell. They're both around 12 kilos heavy, so very light. So the beauty of doing a goblet squat is because of the position of the dumbbell or the kettlebell, it kind of gets us in this nice upright position anyway. So I don't like seeing people squat and hinge too much at the same time, therefore loading up the lower back too much. You don't need to. Remember, we're trying to strengthen up the lower body, not the lower back. So if I was to do a goblet squat with a dumbbell, I would literally just hold the dumbbell under my chin with the heels of my hand. And as I squat, I want my elbows to tap my thighs and press up. If my elbows tap my thighs, that's a nice little cue to tell me that I've gone to a decent range of motion, but I'm not really going to be able to go any further, and nor do I need to perhaps. So, dumbbell goblet squat, kettlebell goblet squat. I like to throw it upside down and hold it with what we call a pistol grip. And then the same thing applies. We squat, tap elbow to thigh, stand up. Squat, tap elbow to thigh, stand up. Now, if that person is doing well, now you've got a whole range of possibilities because we can start light and we can go heavier and heavier and heavier. So you can really stay with that particular basic movement for quite a period of time because there's lots of ways you can progress and regress just based on load. So I like, at this stage, everything going well, try a goblet squat with a kettlebell or a dumbbell, and then I'll show you the harder version from here. Okay guys, so if we wanted to go to probably the most common compound squat movement, we're talking about a barbell back squat. And sometimes people get really intense about the value of back squatting with a bar or not, and doing other varieties of this. Look, it's pretty basic. If someone has the need to lift heavy, if someone has the need to get strong, and they have the competency, the movement competency to enable themselves to squat with a bar and load on their back, then go for it. It's a great exercise. I do it all the time. So I'm not going to go into the detail because I'm going to leave that for another time in another video because back squatting has a whole range of technique points and cues that we should investigate. But just for today, if someone's ready to, they can literally get under the bar, they can lift it off, they can rack it on their traps, and they can then back squat, okay? So it's a very simple movement like we've been doing the whole way through this little video tutorial, but the moment you put load on a person's back and you put weight behind them, there's another level of competency, control, and understanding of movement that needs to be obtained. Great movement. I do it all the time. I recommend that just about everyone should be able to back squat, but let's investigate the detail of that exercise another time. But today, I just wanted to show you how do we progress an absolute beginner, someone who's weak, someone who's got an injury perhaps, someone who's got not much of an ability to squat. How do we progress them from super basic through to fairly proficient? Hopefully those 5 exercises have helped you. Once again, I emphasize competency of movement is the goal here, not load lifted or reps obtained. It's how well can you do the movement, how competent are you in the controlling of your body, and that's the cue, that's the criteria that I need to meet in order to progress further. Look, I hope the video was helpful. Make sure you like it, make sure you follow us and subscribe to Strength and Conditioning Coach Education. Next video is let's have a detailed look at the barbell back squat. Thanks guys, have a good day.